NATO is a European military organization of origin whose goal was to confront Warsaw during the Cold War, and NATO includes 28 countries, and NATO is an abbreviation of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization and is denoted in English by the symbol NATO. NATO was created as a result of the agreement signed by member states in 1949. 1-2 History of NATO. NATO history dates back to the Cold War that took place and intensified between the Western and Eastern camp, where between them the so-called Iron Curtain prevented their closeness, with the Soviet expansion, France, the Netherlands, Belgium, and England and Luxembourg in the city of Brussels in Belgium in the month of March of 1948 AD, and issued a charter requiring their alliance and the gathering of their military forces to achieve their common interests, except that this country was not able to confront the Soviets alone without assistance from the United States of America, and then the American Senator Vandenberg came up with the idea of joining the United States to NATO on the condition that mutual benefit between it and the rest of the parties take place, and after he presented a recommendation to the US Senate in June 1948 AD, many negotiations and discussions took place that ended with the formal declaration of the North Atlantic Treaty in America to become operational. It started from the 24th of August of the year 1949 AD. 2. The establishment of NATO. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization (NATO) was established in 1949 AD, where the Treaty of NATO was signed in Washington in the United States of America, and its main headquarters is in Brussels, Belgium. The main objective of the creation of NATO in that period was to cooperate to defend Europe and confront the Cold War by using military forces from all NATO member states. 3. NATO member countries. NATO is made up of 28 countries, including the founding countries of the alliance. Its founding period joined the United States as the military power great compared to the rest of the countries, and Belgium, France, the Netherlands, Luxembourg, and England, in addition to Italy, Denmark, Norway, Portugal, Canada, and Iceland. All of these countries joined in 1949 AD, and in 1952 AD Turkey and Greece joined, then Greece withdrew from it in the period 1974 to 1980 AD, and in the year 1955 West Germany joined NATO, then rejoined again after it united with East Germany in 1990. 1. In 1982, Spain joined, followed by the Czech Republic, Hungary, and Poland in 1999 AD, while Bulgaria, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, and Romania joined in 2004. In the same year, two countries followed them, Czechia and Slovenia, and this year embodied the largest accession in the history of NATO, and the number of NATO members became 28 after Croatia and Albania joined it in 2009 AD, and NATO called on other countries to join and cooperate with it formally, such as Bosnia and Herzegovina and Serbia, and that was in the Latvia summit in 2006. 1. The organizational structure of NATO is headed by the Secretary-General, and NATO's mission is to guide the decision-making process and the occurrence of consultations between members. The Secretary-General is the highest-ranking civil servant among NATO staff, and is a key NATO spokesman, who is the head of the ALDO organization, a mechanism that provides the necessary advice and guidance to any national delegation within the NATO headquarters. 4. As for the NATO leadership, it is undertaken by a group of countries working with each other as a continuous chain of command, so each member, whether military or civilian, performs his work within the framework of the NATO leadership structure. 5. The organizational structure of the alliance consists of the civil committees and the military organizational structure, and the task of the civil committees lies in completing all the scheduled work from political matters to technical matters, and the civil committees are composed of experts and national representatives from the various member states of the alliance, while the implementation of any decision politics it has raised military to military organizational structure, which consists of 4. Military Commission, which in turn consists of the executive body, the defense and the heads of member states of NATO, the international military staff. The military command structure that consists of the Allies Operations Command, the Allies Command Transformation. It is worth noting that the permanent forces of NATO are very few. When a specific operation is approved by the North Atlantic Council, members participate in the process by volunteering and using their military forces, and once the process is over, these forces return to the country they came from. 4. Some of the provisions of the NATO treaty. The preamble of the treaty states that the member states want to live in peace and want to preserve their freedom and entity, in addition to walking on the principles of democracy, individual freedom and compliance with the law, and member states affirm that they will protect the North Atlantic region jointly and collectively, and Article 1 of the treaty prohibits member states from using force in contravention of the principles of the Charter of the United Nations, whereby any conflict is resolved peacefully without resorting to force or threat. The creation of NATO. As for Article 4, it is represented in the member states' consultations with each other if they observe what threatens their independence and security, while Article 5 states that any armed aggression against one of the member states is considered a real aggression against all the member states of the alliance. NATO, and therefore states members have the right to take appropriate action to counteract the actual aggression, and Article 7 affirms that the provisions of the NATO treaty do not contradict the rights of the member states declared in the United Nations Charter, and as for the withdrawal of states from the treaty, Article 13 states that any party can withdraw after a year from submitting a request for withdrawal to the United States of America, which in turn informs the rest of the member states of the desire to withdraw the party concerned, provided that 20 years have passed since the treaty began. 2. NATO funding. NATO is funded by member states, and the largest participation is from the Allies, where they contribute to operations led by NATO include examples of providing a specific country for combat aircraft while another country supplies ships, and so on. The Allies also directly take charge of the costs of the buildings and their shared equipment, such as AWACS aircraft, in addition to employee salaries. 5. NATO initiatives and interventions. From the initiatives undertaken by NATO, the Partnership Initiative with the aim of achieving peace in 1994, the relationship with the countries on the sides of the North Atlantic Treaty such as Bosnia and Serbia and Montenegro was supported with support and increased cooperation with them, and NATO signed an agreement requiring the establishment of the NATO Council Russia, and that was in a year in 1997 AD. The agreement granted its right to discuss common issues with it, and this agreement was formally implemented by the year 2002 AD, and in 2004 a new initiative took place which is the Istanbul Cooperation Initiative, which urges cooperation with Middle Eastern countries in order to maintain peace and stability in the region. 1. NATO interventions lie in its involvement in Bosnia and Herzegovina in 1995, and this resulted in the deployment of peace and security forces in them, as NATO forces entered Kosovo after striking Yugoslavia with several air strikes in 1999 AD, and in 2001 AD NATO sent several forces keeping peace to Macedonia, as NATO carried out its conservation missions peace in Afghanistan in 2003 AD, in addition to doing many humanitarian matters such as relief for the victims of the Pakistan earthquake in 2006 AD, and helping the victims of Hurricane Katrina in the United States of America in the same year. 1.